Hello and welcome to another Fireside chat. This is for Classical Guitar Corner. I've decided to make these public more recently, so if you've never met me before, my name is Simon Powis and I run Classical Guitar Corner. It's an online school for classical guitar. But of course, most of you are probably inside the Academy watching this, so it's great to see you, and it's been a great month full of technique workshops, which I'll talk about in a moment, but I gave myself a good 5 minutes of chuckling from playing around with ChatGPT just recently to find out where its image generator was at in terms of its capabilities these days. Because often in the past you would ask it for a guitar and it would have 3 strings, 2 sound holes, and it'd be a bit jumbled up. So I just wanted to see how accurate it has become, and I thought I might share it with you. So here's the first image that it came up with. The prompt was, can you create a classical guitar student practicing? That's all. It was very simple. And if we look at the image, it's really quite impressive in terms of the accuracy. 6 strings, the headstock's very accurate, the guitar's very accurate. If I were to be nitpicky, the first string sort of dissolves into the guitar as it goes towards the bridge, but really very, very good. And then in terms of actual technique as well, this guitarist has really excellent technique. The left hand, nice straight wrist, nice relaxed curled fingers, thumb behind the index finger there, fingers over the strings as he or it is playing. And right hand looks very good as well. Nice relaxed posture, fingers accessing the treble strings there with good potential for free stroke clearance. It's great. The only thing was that I thought, well, this side saddle guitar position, usually, unless it's done in a very particular way, it doesn't give good access to the left hand, and it can often ask a guitarist to sort of drop the shoulder and lead to technique issues. So I put in a second prompt saying, can you put this student in the classical guitar posture? And just for fun, I said, can you also make him look like Simon Powis? I was curious to know if it does that. I remember for a while it would do all sorts of things, anything you asked it. Then, because I guess of copyright issues, you couldn't ask for the likeness of someone who exists in real life. So I was just curious to know what was going to happen. And so it said, sure, can you upload a photo of yourself? Slightly creepy that ChatGPT knew I was talking about myself, probably thinking, you narcissist. In any case, I was like, sure, I don't care if Microsoft has my likeness. I'm sure they already do. So that's what came up. And very nice clean white shirt, nice pants. The face, I can see, I should like do a side by side. It doesn't really look like my face. I can see there's a couple of elements that are similar there. Haircut, very similar. But, we have guitar-wise, we have an extension now to this guitar support. So the guitar is sort of raised up and there's a support being used, but this support goes all the way to the ground. I haven't seen one of those before. Although there probably was an iteration, Dionisio Aguado used I never know how to pronounce this, tripodison. This tripod thing with a big, like a stand that then held the guitar from underneath, and you didn't have to hold the weight, and you could stand up playing the guitar. Have a look for that if you've never seen Aguado. But in any case, the guitar position is a little low on this, but again, still very good posture generation there from ChatGPT. So bravo. And you probably saw the thumbnail. I decided to have fun after that with YouTube thumbnail, so I said, now put me in space with the Voyage 2 satellite. And but I still have my guitar. Anyway, much fun ensued. So this month was a month of technique, because we had 5 workshops, all based on technique here at CGC Academy. The first one I ran, and I did a workshop on left-hand technique, starting with real fundamentals of basics of movement and realigning the left hand, particularly good if you're either working to change your technique or you're revisiting your technique, or if perhaps you're right at the beginning, it would have been a great session as well. Then Dave Belcher did a whole session on right-hand technique. Then we had 3 sessions with guest teachers for CGC Academy. First was Evan Tauscher. Actually, I'm talking in the past tense. One is still to come. So Evan Tauscher did the first one. Evan has not taught for us before, but he was just a wonderful teacher, excellent communicator, very engaging, and again worked on some warm-up elements that he uses in his own playing, and passed on some great approaches to technique and thinking about technique. Just wonderful. He's very much welcome back. Then we had Goha Vardanyan, who's very well known to our community at CGC. She's taught at the summer school. She's given masterclasses on Raschiato and tremolo technique in our masterclass library. She focused on two main techniques, the barre technique and rest stroke thumb and fingers. Real in-depth, comprehensive work that she provided there, and just it's going to be an amazing reference video for people to revisit at different times in their development. And finally, Connie Shu, Dr. Connie Shu, will be teaching this coming weekend. She'll have our 5th technique seminar. And what's so wonderful about these sessions is that each teacher, through their own experience, through their own pedagogic lineage, says things in slightly different ways and takes a slightly different point of view on things. Some overlap, some diverge, if I'm mixing my terms. Just wonderful. And I was learning so much. I love learning about teaching. I was taking lots of notes, different ways of explaining things, even simple concepts like, clarifying what someone means by using gravity to hold down a barre or hold down notes on the fingerboard. Because for me, gravity says, plop, the arm gets sucked down to the ground, and that it's almost passive. Whereas they were talking about gravity as in, obviously this downward pressure that can come from the arm, the weight of the arm. I've heard this term used a lot, but I'm so particular about words because I teach online. Online teaching means that there's a lot of interpretation that can happen, especially with a video where you're not there to clarify if there are questions. So you have to be very particular about the usage of words and also the types of exercises you use so that in essence they're restricted. So there's not that much room for interpretation or variation on the part of the student. It's one of the challenges, which I love, about online teaching. And I think I've become quite good at it over the years. Another thing that these teachers have become really quite good at is learning how to say things in multiple ways. So as a player, perhaps you have a very crystallized view of technique. I play like this. And I was really impressed at how consolidated Goha's technique was in terms of how she communicated. But it's also clear that she's worked with many, many students in a private one-to-one teaching, both through Zoom and in New York City in person. And you can tell that there's that experience there of adapting the description or the instruction to different players. Because the truth is that not only is there variation in understanding, there's a comprehension from person to person, what allows you to incorporate that information and actually do it correctly. It could be demonstration. It could be lots of talking. It could be different ways of saying things. It could be just through the playing, a lot of playing and just figuring it out like that. But then there's also the timing. Where are you on your learning journey? What have you learned before? Are there gaps in your learning, or do you have a comprehensive, strong, fundamental foundation? So, very interesting, and I think really enlightening for a lot of students. We've got all the replays up inside the Academy. You can access them at any time, and I think it would be great to access them again in a year or two, especially something as comprehensive as a discussion on barre technique. Because right now, there'll definitely be some takeaways about different elements, and then in a year or two, you'll probably have some different takeaways from the exact same video. One of the beautiful things about online education too is the ability to access that material again and replay it so that you can enjoy it. Speaking of that, I did want to address a couple of questions that came up under the YouTube video last time. I invited some questions and I want to follow through on that. So can't just ask people to ask questions and then let them go. So Andrew Duxfield, hi Andrew. Andrew was a former member at CGC, a really accomplished player, one of the esteemed graduates who did his grade 8 exam. Hope you're doing well. He said, hi Simon, are you planning to publish your studies as a set once you've done them for each grade, assuming you're in fact planning to write them for each grade? thank you, Andrew, for your interest in those. Yes, I'm in the process now of putting grade 2 into a book format, much like grade 1 was, and I'll have the studies in that grade 2 book. And I've written just as many already for grade 3 as I'm doing that material now. I'll be putting that in the book when it comes out eventually. These things take time, as you can imagine. But in terms of a set, yeah, if there's enough interest, I will put them out as an individual set. I'd be quite chuffed to hear people play. I don't consider myself a composer. I enjoy writing music, especially for this educational purpose, but it's a real pleasure to hear people play the music that I've written. And I've been hearing some people play the different studies now in grade 2, and it brings me a great deal of pleasure. So I will definitely consider it if I get a bit of interest. They are available inside the Academy to all those Academy members. They're just under the different lessons. And Tyson asked, hi, roughly how many pieces do you think someone should be able to play well at a particular grade level before moving on to the next grade? Great question. We do have exams coming up in September. I'll talk a little bit about that. But in general, and this is not going to give you a number right now, which is annoying, but in general, people tend to learn too few pieces at a given grade. So, for example, we have exams at the Academy, and the exams, for me, provide two main things. The first is that it gives you feedback from a really experienced teacher that knows the curriculum and also is experienced in teaching in general, gives you feedback there and then on your playing, strengths, things looking to improve. So that's really valuable. And then the second thing that the exams offer is a way to say, yes, you are now ready to move on to more difficult material. The third, obviously, is for those of you who like setting goals. It gives a nice goal to work towards. But that second one is saying, yes, you can move on to more challenging material because your technique is established enough that you'll be able to tackle it without getting frustrated and without ingraining bad habits. However, I liken it to, if someone sees a ladder, they just want to climb it. And we have these grades, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there's, for some, a little bit of a sense of urgency about wanting to go through each grade almost as quickly as possible. And so, Tyson, coming back to your question, I do think in general, for most people that I work with, they could benefit from learning more pieces within one particular grade. And what would be a good guide with that is ones that offer different challenges. So, for example, my head is very much in grade 3 right now because I'm redoing the curriculum for Cornerstone. Big topics we're doing in grade 3, slurs, which come ascending, descending, grace notes, fixed fingers with slurs. So all of those need development. So if you did one piece that had slurs, for example, and said, okay, I've done slurs. Well, probably you've done it in one particular fashion, but unlikely you've now incorporated them into grace notes, and also the fixed fingers element compounds difficulty. What I mean by fixed fingers is, a slur, when we first learn it, that's one thing. But then if we have to hold down a different note, that changes the difficulty level. And of course, we could have a whole chord. That's difficult again. Or ornaments. That's challenging because of the lightness and the speed and the shaping of them. So there's all these different aspects to slurs, which will get a workout at that grade level if you do a variety of pieces with different demands. So the Siciliano, which I recently just did a lesson on YouTube, that has some really nice little acciacchaturas, these grace notes. Whereas I've written some studies now specifically for ascending slurs, specific for descending slurs, etc., etc. Another element might be dotted rhythms. So I revisit dotted rhythms in grade 3 because they're such an important rhythm to get correct. We're also looking at them in 6/8 time signatures, just learning those times. And so let's say you play one dotted rhythm. I think that the Mertz March. this Mertz march. Great, it has a dotted rhythm, but it doesn't fully explore it in a 6/8 context, or there might be other reasons. So the more you can do at that one level, the more robust your understanding is, the more consolidated your fundamentals are. Also, this is further muddying the waters. I think Tyson just wants the answer 7 p.m. But the other thing that's really challenging about guitar, Dave Belcher's right now writing a blog on the grade system and how pieces are assigned to each grade. And it's a tough one to write because you could play something, and I talked about this in the Siciliano lesson, that's assigned as a grade 2 piece. However, if you incorporate other techniques like bass stopping, guide fingers, and acciaccaturas, these slurs and grace notes, that really elevates it to grade 3. And so very simple pieces on the guitar, classical guitar, you can compound the difficulty by making them more musical, changing the fingering, asking more from your hands, bass stopping, left hand preparation, right hand preparation. All of these things take time. So ideally in the academy, it'd be great if a student could do all of the pieces that are in the curriculum. Some do, actually, but some people go to the other extreme and only do what's on the exam list, which I think is too few. The exam is showing us, a polished result, but it doesn't mean that that's all you need to do the work. You need to do the work through other exercises and pieces and repertoire that explores all these different techniques. And we just want to see a few examples, because of course we can't sit there as an examiner and listen to 10 different pieces, nor probably could you prepare them to have them all ready at the same time. So I can't give you an exact number, but in terms of the curriculum, it'd be ideal if someone was patient enough to learn all of the pieces in the curriculum, not the extra set list, but just the curriculum, and really give those pieces a go, because they're chosen very specifically to offer a variety of technical elements that all complement each other within a grade. Sorry, I feel like I rambled a bit there. But thank you for those 2 questions. If anyone has questions they want to ask under this YouTube video, very, very welcome to. So, great technique workshops. Thank you for everyone who attended. We had really good audiences at each workshop. The final one will be this coming weekend with Connie Shu. Then we'll have grade submissions in September. I'm very looking forward to hearing what a lot of you have been working on. We'll have live exams where you can get your feedback right there and then on a Zoom call. And we'll have the recorded exams like we always have. And onwards and upwards. Thank you. And let's take one more look at creepy ChatGPT Simon. Bye, everyone.